Sometimes it's about more than manifesting. You got to do the work. I want to welcome you all back to another episode of the Keep It Uplifting podcast, where we show and prove that the change you seek is possible. And back for part 2, we have Brandi coming back for, this is a bit of a different episode. This is an educational episode, but I think it's only right that you get a introduction to real estate, how to build real estate, some real steps, some real history from someone who's actually done it, and someone who has over $1 million in real estate, someone who's one of the youngest millionaires that I know. Brandi Pratt, say what's up to the listeners.
What's up?
We gonna celebrate you. You like the clap, so we gonna get them in early, okay. Right? But what I wanted to do was, we didn't get into it. We had an introduction story where we talked about how you made it to where you are now, but we breezed over a lot of the meat and potatoes in that episode. So I wanted to actually hear from you. How did you secure your first property?
So
don't leave anything out.
So my first property, obviously, I was a first-time home buyer, and I leveraged a program called VHDA in Virginia, and you take a little class online, and they give you $8,000 for a down payment. And I was able to get the seller to pay my closing costs. So I came out of pocket $1,000 or $1,500 just for the earnest money deposit for the house. And I was able to get my first home, which was a condo. Right. And I mean, I lived in that for 2-3 years before I started on my next property. Okay. So you just saw a condo and was like, I'm gonna get this condo. Like, what was there any research or? Yeah, I mean, I knew what my budget was, right? I knew what my debt to income was. I knew what I was approved for. Debt to income, what is that? Talk about that a little bit. So, your monthly expenses divided by how much money you make per month is what your debt to income is. So when you're buying homes, typically for first time home buyers, they're looking for you to be at 40 and under for debt to income. And I mean, these are bills that every month you have, right? Not your cell phone bill, not your insurance, but other mortgages, your credit card payments, your car notes that are, these things that are in your personal name. So as long as you can keep your DTI under 40% with a new house, you can always buy a new house. And you knew this heading into this, right? Yeah. So what type of research did you do before you even started looking, or did you start looking and then that led to the research? So I'll tell you, before I bought my first house, I had attempted to buy a house 2 or 3 times before. So I kind of already knew what type of documents they were going to ask me for. Okay. When I was living in Baltimore, I mean, I was trying to buy a house then. Yeah. And I was just trying to figure it out, and talking with different lenders from 20, 21, 22, I understood that they would need 2 years of tax returns. I needed to be making a certain amount of money to be able to afford a mortgage. I couldn't have that many credit inquiries. So I just took time to put myself in position to get there, right, to buy the first house. Okay. And after you got your first house, you said you waited 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Was there any reason behind that, or you just wanted the next deal to be the best deal, or what's the case with that? I wasn't even investing in real estate. I was a first time home buyer. I had a home and I wanted to renovate it. I wanted to design it. And I think most people that get a home, they want to start like that. They want to furnish it. They want to design it. I mean, it took me 2 to 3 years to finally make the home comfortable. Wow. For me, right? And it wasn't until I met my mentor when I started working at my current employer who put me on to actually investing, right? Okay. And at that point I was like, oh, let me go ahead and just buy another home. And when you say investing, is that exactly what you mean? Or because a lot of people say investing, right? You think of stocks, you think of 401k, you think of
there's something else that's like a 401k as well. But, you know, IRAs, things of that nature. You were just talking about investing in real estate, right?
Investing in real estate, because I don't know nothing about stocks. I don't put my money in things I don't understand. So I feel like with stocks, I mean, you're putting your money in other people's hands to do whatever with. Do you even understand how stocks work?
Well,
just keep buying them.
Well, I think that's a conversation for another time. But you can look at a business now, and you can see how a business operates, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the people who invest in stocks or do long-term investing, they take a look at, you know, what's the projections and things of that nature. Because, you know, you're a big numbers person. So you said that your mentor talked to you about investing, and like, I'm sure you guys went over some numbers crunching for your second property, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, everything from what is the expected rents to how much the mortgage is going to be. I mean, that's simple math. You can do that on Redfin, figuring out how much your mortgage is. And the next thing is figuring out how much you can charge on rent. And that's how you know how much you get in cash flow.
Okay.
So I think for anyone getting started in real estate investing, you have to have a criteria. Like, you have to know how much you want to make off of the property that you buy. For me, my required rate of return was $1,000.
Right.
I needed $1,000 profit on every single deal. So that meant I had to find houses that were cheap enough that I could charge enough in rent to still cover the mortgage and still give me $1,000 profit. And I did that over and over again.
I feel like you're breezing over some of the steps, though.
Okay.
Like what goes into that? That's what I'm saying. For you.
For me,
if you can give us some of the secret sauce.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't have a lot of cash, right? So my down payment is limited to how much I can afford. So I'm not buying a big single family house. I'm not buying a $600,000 house.
Right.
I'm buying houses that are $200,000 and less. So that way my mortgage can be $1,500 or less. My strategy personally is condos. I like condos because, well, there's only but so much you can do to mess up a condo.
Okay.
Right? It's 4 walls and, you know, like, just be prepared to renovate it when the tenant moves out. If they mess it up.
Right.
But, I mean, there's only but so much you can do before your neighbors start to figure out, like, you start to affect your neighbors. So for me, condos were a low budget way to get started in real estate investing. Also with condos, you can write off the condo fees, right? So, I mean, I make $1,000 in profit. I'm writing off the condo fees, and like, life is good.
Okay. And I like what you said, right? Like, most people think that they got to go with the Burr method immediately, right? Yeah. They got to get a big house, and then they got to refinance that house, and then that house will lead them to the next house, and so on and so on. And you said you looked at it from an affordable way, right? Yeah. Like, I can afford this if I have a tenant, if not, right? Mm-hmm. So you chose condos, and I don't think a lot of people even talk about that, because that's a very unique strategy.
Yeah.
Right. But you also are getting them in like prime locations, right?
Yeah.
Like, exactly. Is there a strategy there for that?
I mean, obviously, if you don't have enough money to buy $1 million property in DC, maybe you should look at a cheaper property in DC.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And I mean, if a condo is that, then that's why I say people need to figure out what their criteria is. If you say you need to make $600,000 or $600 a month off of, you know, a deal, like, that's what you need to make it make sense for you, then you need to be looking at houses that will give you that type of cash flow. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense to just go on Redfin and just price numbers on any and every house you see. That's a waste of time. Have a strategy before you jump in.
Right. Why did you choose to have renters instead of flipping? Right? Because isn't that another form of real estate investing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many things you can do in real estate investing. For me, I wanted cash on cash return every month. I wanted monthly profits, and I needed long-term tenants. And for me, my business model is housing voucher tenants. They stay longer in the home. And if you put enough money into the home to keep it up, and you actually care about your property, and you create an equitable space for the tenant, they'll stay longer, and they'll take care of your property as well. And it's money coming in from the government on the first every single month. So,
and that's what you mean by voucher tenant.
Yeah. So these are Section 8 tenants.
Okay.
I think a lot of people have a negative connotation around Section 8 tenants and what housing voucher tenants, could potentially do to your home.
Right.
I think once you get into real estate investing and you understand that it's a numbers game, like that emotional connection about people fucking up your property, it goes away.
Right.
And you just plan for the worst, but hope for the best.
What are ways to plan for the worst? How do you mitigate those risks?
Yeah, getting a property manager. Right? Like grow up and pay people to manage your properties for you, so you don't have to deal with that extra shit. My property manager does routine check-ins. They do check-ins every 6 months. Sometimes I ask them to go more often, just like if I have a tenant that has reached out to me about something in the home, I might want my property manager to go out there and look at it. Right. But yeah, and then obviously screening your tenants up front, right? Some people don't screen tenants, which is wild to me. But I mean, just simple background checks, credit checks, income verification. Even if you have housing voucher tenants, that doesn't mean that they, you don't screen them, right? And if you can place a good tenant, then they're going to take care of your home.
And this just sounds like a lot of upfront money, though, right?
Nah.
No?
I mean, a property manager is like 8 to 10% for long-term rentals.
Okay.
If you're doing Airbnb, I think it's like 20%.
Okay.
So if I make $2,500 a month, my property manager takes 8%. I mean, it's like $180.
But the background investigation and all of that, I mean,
that's a normal application fee for $55. And that's something that the tenant pays. You can leverage platforms that do tenant screening for you, so you don't have to worry about it. There's a lot of things that automate property management. I think for people that don't want to do the hands-on work, because I'm one of them, hiring a property manager and just onboarding your property as soon as you close on it is probably your best bet.
Well, you making it sound super easy. It's just that simple, right? I want to get a house. I got a couple dollars, and my DTI, my debt to income ratio is 40%, and I should just do it. And now I'm going to be wealthy like you.
No, that's not how that That's not that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how do you look at a deal? How do you understand? How did you arrive at that number? How did you arrive at I'm getting $1,000 or I'm getting $1,200? Yes, you look at the rent. Yes, you look at what the government will pay. But where do you get these numbers from? How do you break that deal down?
So, I mean, every city has their housing voucher or Section 8 numbers posted somewhere. It might be buried very deep on the internet, but I mean, I've seen my business partner call Baltimore Housing and they'll find it for you.
Right, right.
And they'll say, okay, well, here's the schedule of rents and this is how much, we would pay if you have this many bedrooms, or this is how much we would pay for this type of home. I mean, these are things that you can go find on the internet. Right. So digging for that information is something you need to do. Another thing I do is simply just going to Zillow and looking at for rent properties in the same neighborhood under the same criteria. And that gives me an idea of how much I can charge in rent. Working with real estate agents, I mean, they would know how much rent is, right? So there are multiple ways to price houses. I personally I price my houses on housing voucher prices.
Right.
So if I'm looking at a house and the Section 8 payment is not enough to cover the mortgage, then I'm probably not going to buy that house.
Okay.
It has to be more than, has to be more, right? Okay, maybe Section 8 won't cover the mortgage. Well, does market rate cover the mortgage? And that's me renting to a person without a voucher that just wants to rent a house. Does that cover it? No. If the only way to cover the mortgage is to do Airbnb or some short-term rental, money that you can't necessarily count on,
right?
I personally wouldn't go for that deal unless I was confident in my numbers. So I think that people should get confident in their numbers.
Right.
Learn how to do deal evaluations. There are so many different podcasters out there that give you access to evaluation software that you can just.
There's
me, right?
Right.
And and
there's Brandi.
Brandi.
In case anybody's And for everyone watching, for everyone listening, that is why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, getting smart on that is something that you should do. But I mean, there are people out there that just don't want to do that.
Right. But, you know, for the people who don't want to look and for the people who feel uncomfortable, because a lot of times you don't know who you're talking to on the other end of the phone, or when you go to the bank, you know, you see people, they see you, and no matter how you're dressed, they don't really give you their best self, although you arrived as your best self. So what is your email to get reached at?
So you can reach me at contact@blue, like the color, -Pratt, PRATT.
Okay.
.com.
I just want to make sure that we put that in here, and we say that as many times as possible, because we are going over stuff, and yes, we're kind of breezing through it, but I did want to give people more background and validity to your story, where we talk about that you are making numbers without showing them all that money in your bank account, which after this, I'm going to need $1 to get back on the train. But look,
you got it.
But so you're saying, reach out to people, reach out to yourself, but what else do I need to know before getting into this real estate game? What is some obstacles that you had to overcome before you even, crunch the numbers and after you secured a property?
Yeah. So some of the things I needed to do before I even got started, like credit repair is absolutely necessary. I mean, for me, I didn't have that problem, but I know that is a barrier to entry for a lot of people. And like, if people don't know how to fix their credit, like that's somewhere you should start.
But I did hear, and I want you to finish that answer, but I did hear somewhere a guy was on the podcast, of course, and he was like, best way you fix your credit is pay that stuff.
Okay.
Is that the best advice?
I mean, everything on your credit report isn't necessarily like it might belong to you. It might not. Right.
Okay.
And I mean, you can dispute anything with incorrect information off your credit report. Doesn't mean you don't owe it. It just means it's not on your credit report. Right. So getting smart about like consumer protection, like that Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, like you don't have to be an expert in it. You could actually just pay someone for credit repair services, or
like yourself,
like myself, or you could learn it, right? Because all of that information is on these government agency websites. Like doing that will position you to a place where you can get better interest rates. I have a story for you.
Okay.
Right. So sometimes, like, I remember once I was going up for a property and my realtor was like, oh, Brandi, you need to sign a declaration stating how much money you have in the bank. Right. I had to list out how much money I have because the sellers wanted to know what kind of money I was bringing to the table. Right. So I did a deal recently, or I was trying to. It was $1 million property, right? And I probably had like 10,000 in my bank account. But because my credit was so good, like the lender was like, "Oh yeah, you're good. I'll raise the money somehow, some way." Right. But like that wasn't even something that we worried about because my credit was good, and I was talking the talk, and I knew exactly what I needed to make it work. Right. So like we talked about this in the first episode, right? Having good credit sets you apart from people who don't have good credit, but it gets you into rooms that you probably wouldn't have been able to get into if you didn't know what you was doing. Wow. So, yeah.
Have you always been a stickler for credit?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. I did door-to-door sales, and I would sell people security systems. So I would pull their credit. And I knew what a full pop deal would make me. I knew what someone with average credit would make me. I knew what a credit fail looked like as well. So I knew the different tiers for credit, and I was always looking for people that were 700 plus. And when you start doing sales, you can kind of pick up on context clues. You can kind of pick up on people's body language, the way they talk, like just context clues that let you know that this person probably handles their finances very well. As opposed, right? And
such as?
I mean, things like, what do you do for work? You know, they'll tell you what they do for work. You know, okay. Oh, yeah, we have a beach house down in so-and-so, right?
Okay,
you know, I look at the cars in the driveway. I can see the type of cars that they drive. You know, like I said, their profession, where they went to school. You know, the same way your insurance company gives you a lower rate because you have kids. Right. Like they kind of can tell that you are less risky.
I got you.
Yeah.
But some of those people may have been over leveraged, right? Like you can have all of that, but you lose your job and things fall apart. What do you say about people who don't want to take on $220,000 in debt, $450,000 in debt to get a home, and they're like, I'm gonna save and I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
You know, but their plan is 5-7 years or never.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to just getting their credit together and having some actual money in the bank and lowering their DTI. What do you say to that?
I think people are afraid to take on debt because they don't know how to leverage it. Businesses go into debt to make money. People take out $1 million loans to build skyscrapers, to charge $1 million for each unit that they sell, right? So if you don't know how to leverage the debt you take out, that's a problem that you need to work on, right? Like, I'm going to take out this money. What is the cost of that capital? And if I'm taking this money out, I'm not living off of it. I'm putting it into another house.
Right.
So the house I put this money into needs to cover that mortgage plus the cost of capital that I use to pull this money and give me a profit. Right. So I think that that's something that people haven't necessarily connected. Most people want to use cash to do this. And what you're going to run up against is that you're not always going to have 25% down.
Right.
Because that's rough. I mean, I'd be struggling with 25.
Right.
25 is a lot. Especially on a $200,000 house, that's $50,000.
Right.
Like, what are we doing?
Right.
I'm about to come out of $50,000 to buy something.
Right. Even if I have it, do I want to use mine or do I want to use someone else's?
Right. So leveraging other people's money is how you grow. And if you don't know how to service the debt, then you need to get educated on that.
Okay. And do you have a strategy? I know you're acquiring more properties, but do you have a strategy for owning them outright or essentially paying the debt off?
I mean, there are two different thought tracks here. I mean, on one hand, I know that if I were to aggressively pay off those properties over the next 5 to 8 years, right, they'll be paid off. I have $1 million in assets that I can borrow against in my 30s. Another strategy is just like paying the mortgage because it's a long-term rental and just collecting the rents every month and just letting the house be.
Right.
Like, you don't really have to do much. I don't need to pay off this debt because like the tenant is paying off the debt. No,
I understand. I just know that sometimes the frame of mind with people is I don't want to owe anybody anything, right?
Yeah.
So even if they take your advice and they get the property and they got a renter in there, still on the back of their mind, they're still like, I want to own this and get this, offloaded off of my credit, or just I don't want to be indebted to anyone.
Okay. Like, you can either put your money and tie it up into the equity of the house, or you can put your money into another asset that will then pay off that house. Like, equity in a home, look at it as energy, right? Like, if you got a shit ton of equity sitting in your house, that energy is just sitting there.
Right.
So either you're going to refinance it, take that money out, put it into another deal, or just let it sit there and do what? Like, you can get a better cash on cash return investing that money into another property. Right.
And this is just your strategy. This isn't for everyone, right?
And this is my strategy because
it works.
Because I don't have a lot of cash to spend on paying off a property
at this time.
Right. I'd much rather take the money that I make, the money that I have, to invest in another property to keep moving forward. Right. Because if you have 4 properties bringing in $2,500 a month, that's $10,000, right? All you need is 4 more properties to bring in 20 grand and 4 more properties to bring in 30 grand a month.
Right.
Why would I spend my money paying off one of my houses?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. So that's my strategy.
And what is the end goal for your portfolio this year? And how are you going to go about that?
I want to get a multifamily. I want to get at least 2 more single family houses, maybe a condo and a multifamily by the end of the year. In order for me to get there, though, I have to network with bigger investors to bring in cash. I have to do cash deals. To make
PML. I just learned that, so I've been saying it a lot.
Private money. PML, private money lender. Okay? Or just individual investors that just have a shit ton of cash sitting around. Right? Most people don't know people that have a shit ton of cash sitting around, but if you go put a lawyer on retainer, I can assure you your lawyer probably has clients that have money that, you know, if you show your lawyer you're in business doing something, they'll connect you.
You just giving out a lot of free strategies here. So I just want to make sure that, because we're going through this fast. This isn't the normal pod where I take people through your story. I think you gave a brief introduction into your first property, securing your second property. Obviously, you have more properties now, and you're working on a bigger deal at the end of the year. But where can people reach you at again? I just want to make sure that.
Contact at blue like the color -Pratt.com.
But you said something to me earlier today, when we were talking about what we were actually going to discuss and how we were going to, really get this to be palatable for everyone that listens to the podcast. And I know I've heard it before, but when you said it, it just hit me different. You said people don't get another house to get something they want. What did you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that?
Whenever I have a new expense that comes up in my life, instead of like paying for it cash or, I don't know,
working extra hours or saving up money. Yeah.
Saving up money. I literally just go and buy another asset that will pay for whatever it is. So that's how I look at that.
Is it really that easy though?
Yeah. Once you learn how to buy houses, you understand what you need to qualify for the houses, and you know how to talk to lenders. Yeah, it is that easy. You can buy as many houses as you want as long as you have enough money for the down payment. So,
but I think that asset statement comes from a level of financial literacy. Is there anything you recommend people read or people they talk to or
yeah, I mean,
what resources can people rely on without contacting you first?
Okay. So I mean,
or where could they get started? So maybe when they know that you know what you're talking about. How about that?
I mean, I do consultation calls.
Okay.
So if you would like to get started and you want a little bit of a direction, you can reach out.
Where can they reach you at?
Contact at blue-pratt.com.
Okay.
Right. And we can do a consultation call and just talk about what your goals are. Right. And if you don't know what your goals are, then maybe we start there and we figure out what it is you're actually trying to do. So I can give you a strategy that might make sense to you based on how much money you have in the bank, what your credit looks like today, and what your cash flow, what your needs are.
And that's just even, maybe they just want a single family home, or maybe they just want their first property. They don't even want to get into investing. You do that as well?
Yeah. I'm actually launching a business that automates real estate investing. So, I mean, everything from the consultation call to selling you fully stabilized, fully rented properties that are already cash flowing. I mean, this is something that is in the works, so I won't get too deep into it. But I see this as a need for a lot of the people that reach out to me, a lot of my family, a lot of my friends that are interested in getting started in real estate investing. They don't know where to start. And I could teach you how to do all of this, but we like convenience, right?
Right.
We like convenience, and maybe you can just pay me to give you a property that is an investment property. And all you need to know is how much money do you need to put down to buy this house? There you go.
And just for my clarification, or just for me, how long do you think it took you to figure all of this information out?
Like everything from buying my first property to now?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll speak in terms of deals. It took me like 2 or 3 properties to understand exactly what I was doing. Right. And I mean, I made some mistakes along the way, but like 2 years. Yeah,
I just want people to understand why they should maybe pay you, because you pay people, right? Like you have mentors, you have lawyers on retainer, you pay people for their expertise, you pay people for the time that they've put in to learning their craft, right? To honing their craft. You pay for that.
Yeah.
I guess you could say express time, right? Like I don't want to talk to a realtor to figure all of that out. I would love to just talk to you, pay whatever I got to pay, and then get me a cash flowing property. I would love to not look at these government sites that you said I got to go to page 889 to figure out these emails or the person to talk to for vouchers or make those phone calls. Like I would love to just enjoy my day. So where can my listeners, anybody watching, I'm gonna clip this up.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
You can go and email me at contact@blue-pratt.com.
and I know this pod may sound a little salesy, but we've been talking about this for a while, and Brandi has helped me figure out some things in my life that I have to tune up and tighten up so that I can get in the game. And I want everybody listening to the pod to grow with me, right? The more you know, the more you grow.
Yeah. I think another thing to answer your question of why people should work with me or, listen to the things I say. I mean, there are things that, like, if you go into a bank, they're not going to be able to tell you, right? Like things that you would never know. And you wouldn't know unless you went through it and somebody told you that. So I think one thing that I do for a lot of my family and friends is I'm very blunt, and I'm very much like, here's how you can do it.
Right.
And you can explain any and everything. As long as somebody can help you navigate this process, you'll be better off. Right. So I've been able to scale faster by having good people in my ear that have helped me avoid pitfalls. And when I do find myself in a situation where the numbers are not working for me and this is not working for me, right, I know it's time to go talk to another lender. It's time to go talk to an investor-friendly real estate agent or an investor-friendly lender, right?
Wow.
Because I'm trying to do something that normal people that buy houses as their primary residence don't do. I'm trying to qualify in a different way, right? I might not have 2 years of tax returns. Maybe I can only go off of bank statements because that's all I got to show for the year, right? So you need people that understand what you're trying to do and can qualify you based on that. Rocket Mortgage is not that one. Okay. But like Rocket Mortgage will do enough to get you your first home.
Right. And it's just like you said, there's just a level of expertise, shortcuts, things that if you don't know, you just don't know. Nobody's going to offer that information up.
No one is going to offer it. And if you don't know how to ask for it either, like you'll never figure it out. Like, there was a strategy I was trying to deploy. I was like, how do I do this? Like, this is what I want to do. I've heard about it, but how is this actually executed? Nobody could tell me because I was asking the wrong question. Right. I was asking for one thing, but it's actually called something else.
Right.
Once I figured that out, I was like, okay, well, do you have experience with this? And they're like, oh yeah, like this is how it works.
Yeah. Like PML.
Yeah.
I did not know what that was. But I knew what it was. You know what I'm saying? But if I went somewhere to ask for it or to talk to someone about it, and I, like you said, I didn't say the right thing, they'd be like, nah, we can't do that.
Right. So one thing we were talking about in the last podcast was taking time to learn how to speak their language. If you don't know what PML is, if you don't know what PITI is, and you're in a room full of investors and they're asking you, oh, is that the price of PITI? You'd be like,
I'll get back to you.
I'll get back to you, right? PITI is principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, like your entire mortgage payment,
right?
All inclusive.
Right. And you can get rid of some of that, right? If you put 25% down or no?
Yeah, I mean, you can pay it separately, but you still gonna have to pay taxes.
Okay, not taxes. I'm just saying
the mortgage insurance.
Right.
Yeah, your PMI.
Oh, PMI. See,
you can get rid of it if you put down.
See, 20%. I'm learning a lot today, and I'm getting this for free. But also, that's why we're having this conversation on the podcast, because anybody can listen to this, and we want to you want to reach back and help people out. Me, I have given up on all of y'all. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
but you want, this is a way that you're reaching back, and that's why I made the trip down here to Miami. Brandi's in Miami. In case you guys can't see it, she's really living this life. I don't know how to really say this, but
I'll be at home. I'll be at home.
We're not at home. I will open the blinds, but it would just be sunny in here. But you would see the backdrop of Miami. But she's someone who is young, right? I am over 30 and heading into another age bracket, and I am not doing as well as Brandi's doing. Brandi's doing it a lot faster, a lot easier, and she's making it look effortless. And I just feel that outside of highlighting the greatness that is her, I want to highlight the fact that she's willing to help people as well. So we're going to end the pod here, unless you want to break down a deal.
Yeah.
You do?
I mean, I can. I can tell you why one failed.
Okay.
So debt to income, right? I mean, when I calculate my debt to income, I take my mortgages, and like my credit cards. That's it. That's all that I have in my personal name, right? And I'm offsetting it with the leases that I have for the house.
Say that one more time about what you have in your personal name in case someone missed that.
I have my mortgages in my personal name, right? And I mean, I can always move it over to the business by refinancing it over. Right. That's not a problem. But when I'm calculating my DTI, I have to factor the mortgages. Mm-hmm. I have to factor the credit card payments, whatever those monthly payments are. And I come up with a number, right? Divided by the money that you make. So it was April 25th. I filed my taxes on tax day, April 18th. And I wrote off most of the things I did last year. So I ended up at a number that was enough to maybe buy one more house. April 25th, I said, oh, shit, there's a multifamily on the market. I want to buy this. And I did not properly plan my taxes to be able to execute a multifamily strategy this year.
Wow.
So my debt to income was like out of whack. I wasn't able to offset any of my mortgages with my leases. So I'll have to circle back to it next year and do it again after I properly plan my taxes with my CPA. It's a good problem and a bad problem. Yeah, it just means that I have to go to markets where the housing prices are cheaper so I can do 20% down on something that's a lot cheaper.
Okay.
Or, 200.
Right.
That should be. I don't think people realize 20% of 200,000.
20% period.
20%
is a lot. I mean, we're not in a place like Ohio where they're probably the last of the Mohicans as far as housing prices, right?
$50,000.
Yeah, you're not gonna find a $16,000 house that you gotta come up with 20% of.
Right. So 20% of 200 is 40,000.
Right.
Like I can, okay.
Yeah,
like,
you can come up with it, but
now once you get to 25%, that's 50 grand. Like that's I mean, yes, it's $10,000 more, but for me, like that last $10,000 kicks you in the fucking teeth every single time. So for people that are, new to real estate investing, one thing that I've shared with my friends and my family members is that you can buy a primary residence every single year if you choose to.
Uh-huh.
Every single year you are obligated to purchase another home if you'd like to. If you want to house hack your way every single year, you can do that and just do 5% down on conventional loans. 5% down on 200,000 is very attainable.
Right. Speaking of jobs, you work, right?
I do.
How many hours would you say that you roughly?
80 hours.
Right?
Every 2 weeks.
Right. So you're doing this and maintaining a job. I just want to highlight that because there's a lot of conversations that go around that say you just jump in,
Yeah.
without a parachute, essentially, without a life jacket, right?
Yeah.
And then it's sink or swim, but you can also just coast your way into this, right?
Absolutely. I mean, because real estate is passive. If you do real estate in a way where it remains passive, right? You're not doing flips.
Right.
Maybe you're just owning real estate investment properties. You're just collecting rent in your sleep.
Mm.
And if you have a property manager to manage the maintenance of the property and handle the direct deposit coming in, like I don't work hard to have the condos that I have.
Right.
So that's not like, it doesn't take time away from my day job. And pricing deals can be done at any time of the day. So it doesn't actually affect me at all.
I think you gave a lot of information. I think you gave a lot of game, a lot for people to chew on, to just think about. I don't know how many of our, of the listeners are homeowners, are investors. But if you are, or if you're looking into it, Brandi's definitely somebody for you to contact. She is a specialist in the tech world. We call her a SME. A subject matter expert. So we use a lot of acronyms on this episode. I'm still stoked about PML.
PML, DTI, SME.
But Brandi, I want to thank you again. I want to thank you for allowing me to come down here, securing the space for us to even shoot this episode. Part 2 with Brandi. I wonder will we have a part 3? I'm excited to see where you're going after this. I mean, hopefully it's to your purse to get me $1 so I can get on the train. Nah, all jokes aside, I am excited to see your growth. It seems like there's something new and inspiring going on with you every time we sit down. So I hope you guys enjoyed Brandi Part 2. Where can people reach you at?
RBS.
Contact at blue-pratt.com.
Keep it uplifting.
Make sure to like, comment, share, and most importantly, keep it uplifting.
Take it up, listen.